Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, just a few quick little introductions. Myself, I've been the principal. This is now my third year at Magee. Before that, I was principal down at Britannia, and vice principal at Britannia and Churchill, and out in Surrey. And then before that, my teaching experience was in South Africa. And I got a doctorate a couple of years ago on the work we were doing in South Africa under the new non-racial government from UBC. Then Miss Dowley is a new vice principal to Magee, coming to us from Hamber Secondary. She was a science specialist and science department head for many years, and also part of the Vancouver Secondary Teachers Association rep, and so well experienced in those issues and advocacy for public education. And Kelly Eggleston. Kelly has been with us for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. And he heads up the team around the SPARTs program. And so later on in the breakout, you'll be joining Kelly. Brenda looks after the Leaders students, which is an in-school program, not a district-wide mini school or anything. It's just a program that's internal to our school. And that session also at 7 o'clock. Brenda also looks after our grade 9 and 10 students. She's the administrator overseeing those students. I look after the grade 12s, and Kelly looks after the grade 8s and 9s this year. And I think that's probably sufficient background in terms of our introductions. Next slide is a big part of our life at school, of course, revolves all around the students. David Kiss is the chairperson of our student council. David and his team are doing their level best to generate student spirit into the school without being able to have any real meetings and have any of the traditional kinds of activities like grade 8 welcoming and grade 8 welcome barbecue, grade 8 and night disco, or whatever you call it. Not a disco, we used to call it, I'm dating myself, right? Dance evening for the grade 8s. And other things like Halloween weeks and those kinds of spirit generating activities. Unfortunately, David and the student council are not able to do that. But in the last meeting that we had, they are looking for more creative ways that leadership can flourish and come out. Alongside the student council and David's team, we have a fantastic parent advisory committee, which I do want to just bring up and mention. And they are under the joint chairpersons who are Maria Hubernet and Sky Richards. And if you take a look at our webpage or type in Magee Pack, you'll see a lot of information that they provide us and some of the work which they do along with the District Parent Advisory Committee, both very important organizations and structures around our school, and that reach to some of the heart of local democracy, which is important to me. As an administrator, and valuing parent and student voice in shaping us as your professionals who are here to serve you and build public education for you. Those are some of the values which I hold close as a principal and as an administrator. Thanks, Kelly.
I'm just going to, just while we're talking about student council, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some of the clubs that we run here at Magee. This year, of course, is a bit of an anomaly with the COVID situation that we have. That said, our intrepid leader clubs, our student council teacher sponsor, that would be Mr. Newt, is he's making sure that we still continue to have clubs. We're going to start them off, of course, we're doing them safely. We're going to start them off doing them online using Microsoft Teams, and then hopefully as things evolve, we want to make sure that kids maintain that connectedness with the school. And these aren't even all of the clubs we have here. We have, I believe there's probably about another 10 more options. Some of the highlights we have, the Magee Environment Club is a long-standing club that does service to the school. You can often find them before COVID times, of course, here on a Friday afternoon, going through juice boxes and taking separating recycling. Ski and snowboard club, we'll be looking at what the options are there. Kind of tough right now with obviously traveling to the ski hills. Canadian Cancer Society Club raises thousands of dollars every year for cancer research and so on and so on. We're really proud of our clubs here, and the kids do a great job, and we have some fantastic teacher sponsors. A little bit about athletics. Of course, we don't want to keep saying COVID, but it is a bit of a different year. If this were a regular year, you could go to @Magee Athletics on Instagram, and you could see one of the many sports that we offer here at Magee. We're working on a plan right now, a modified plan to do what are called intramurals. And those of you who can remember that far back to high school, we might be able to do some sort of activity within the school setting. We were just approved by Via Sport. That is the provincial arm of what basically looks after all the club sports. So some of your children might be in club sports right now. Looks a little bit different here at school because, of course, safety is of paramount concern. So we have some pretty stiff rules around what we can do in terms of offering athletics. So we're working on a plan. There are a lot of stipulations to it. So if you have a child here at Magee, there's more to come on that. But for right now, we're not actually doing any of the sports. But if the students were here, we have some very strong programs. Field hockey, volleyball, or boys basketball made it to provincial last year. Our girls volleyball were made it to provincials as well, and they were Vancouver City champions, both the juniors and seniors. We've had our tennis team was number 2 in the province. We were hoping to be number 1 this year. I see I put field hockey on there twice. Field hockey was recently Vancouver City champions. So we've got a great tradition here of sports, and we can't wait to get back at it. I'm going to pass the mic over to Miss Dowell right now, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what a regular grade 8 schedule would look like.
All right, good evening, folks. So on a typical school year, a grade 8 student would take English, math, social science, a language, typically French at our school, applied science, fine art elective of some form, and a PE. There's also Career Education 8, which is typically done online, and kids meet. All the grade 8s take Career Ed 8, and all the grade 9s take Career Ed 9. We can go to the next slide. However, due to COVID, we had to restructure. So our district did a fantastic job of dividing up our classes, typically 30, now down to 15. So yours, assuming, well, we don't know what's going to happen next year, but currently our grade 8s are divided in half. So there's an A group that comes in the morning and a B group that comes in the afternoon in small little cohorts of only 15. And we rotate with a second course, one online, one face-to-face each quarter. Kelly, next slide, please. So if you look, I think this was also posted on our website as well, if you wanted know more about the current 4-quarter system. But what we're doing basically is doing 2 courses per quarter. Now, for some kids, this is fantastic. For some others, not so great. But our first and foremost priority is the health and safety of our kids and our staff. So this is I'd say one of the best systems that we have that's available in BC. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of grade 8s, one of the things that they'll be taking is what is called an ADST rotation. What that is instead of taking, say, sewing and cooking for the whole year, they would take it for a third of a year. And then they would do a business course for a third of the year and a tech course for a third of the year on a typical linear school year. So fingers crossed, next September, we're back to normal, and your child would be taking this ADST rotation where they would do a business course for a third of the year, then home ec, which is sewing and cooking, for a third of the year, and then tech ed for the next third of the year. Next slide, please. The other thing that may be an option for your child would be the enriched math. So what happens there is our math department head, Jessie Taylor, takes in some students at the grade 8 level for an enriched math course, which then go on to enriched math 9 course. How is that done? You don't have to do a special in-school sitting of any kind. Please make sure that your child writes the GAUS math contest at the elementary level, and then forward that result to Mr. Taylor, to Jesse, and then from there he can then let you know whether your child made the course. Next slide, please. If you want to know more about all the variety of courses, currently online on our school website is this year's last year's course catalog. Was it this year?
Yeah, that's last year's. We'll have this year's
That's
updated
okay.
and uploaded in the next few
Courses are
weeks.
pretty much the same, but it gives you a much deeper view of the variety of options that we have available here at Magee. Shortly after this, I will upload the link onto our chats. I've been monitoring the chats. I've answered one question already, but as soon as I finish with this, I'll post the link to the course catalog. It is on our school website, but if you're having difficulty finding it, I'll post a link directly into our chats. Next slide, please. Yes.
That's for me.
Now, the 8th course your child will take is a fine arts elective. We have a wide range of options, everything from band, strings, visual arts, drama, concert choir. So lots of options for your child to take. And then they would have a nice, rich load for them to continue on with their grade 8 and onwards. Thanks, Kelly. All good.
Okay, and we're going to
Brenda, these are my
pass the
slides,
mic
Kelly.
off to Andrew.
The
Yes.
fine arts, Brenda gave a little bit of an overview of the math program and some of the aspects of math. We could spend a lot of time discussing also some of the exciting work that's done in science and the science program, and in all of the departments is rich and I think quite innovative teaching going on in every department. I want to speak a little bit to fine arts. The department head is Megan Byrne. And then that department consists of a couple of different programs. And then Kelly, next slide, chamber choir under Mr. Greg Kwan, and the concert band under Mr. Keith Ollenshaw. Those are two aspects of part of the music program, which is one of the top programs provincially, if not nationally. I would probably say, I could put my head out and say probably nationally, our music program is one of the top 10 programs in Canada because of what the foundation of that's been laid over the past several years in the school with Mr. Haas and Mr. Kwan, and then now Mr. Kwan leading the music program and Mr. Keith Ollenshaw coming on board this year, carrying on developing the program. So it's tough, it's rigorous, but with very, very high standards. Situations are changing in the province and in the district as well, with the reduction in itinerant grade 6, 7, 8, 6, 7 junior music teachers. So the students coming in are often have less experience and knowledge of music, but with Keith and Greg, they are accommodating that and are developing the program, even with that context, and are still developing a fantastic music program here. And then if we aren't interested in the music and in the performing arts in that sense, we go over to Magee Drama, and Megan and Mr. Waterman Mike are both have been professional actors. And producers and directors, as well as now being in our education system. They bring professional contacts in, they bring professional partnerships, and they have developed a very, very interesting model of teaching drama and developing the skills of drama from grade 8 level all the way through to grade 12, grade 11, 12, when we put on the traditional Magee musical towards the end of the year, which is really a highlight, and I think deserves more public recognition of. We would like not just our students and families coming to it. It rivals anything that you can see professionally in the city. But generally in years gone by, the 3 nights, it's been our students and families which sell out night after night in the Magee Theatre. Then the one other piece that Brenda alluded to already was the fine arts elective choices that the students choose between drama, music, strings, band, and then visual arts as well. Our visual arts, we've got 2 teachers that are currently involved in that. And we also include an AP art program that gives the students the opportunity to get their first year of art covered at the school level in grade 12, the AP, the advanced placement. It's generally recognized as a first year university credit or college credit, depending on some of the colleges. So the standards again are very, very high, and we start with students who have perhaps seldom picked up a pencil when it comes to drawing and are afraid of drawing, and we work through all of that with our amazing colleagues. So that's a little bit of background around that, the arts. The grade 8 schedule in terms of choir is during lunchtime, so it gives students the opportunity to take an extra course during the lunchtime. And then also before school and after school, we have some of the music programs. So that means that there's a greater possibility of students taking additional courses and not just being restricted to those 8 and the applied skills and the fine arts electives. They can also take choir during lunch. And then over to the leaders and Brenda.
So the more in-depth information piece for leaders will be held online again at 7 o'clock. I'll post the link in a little while. But for general overview, leaders are a group of students that are cohorted together, and they all take English, science, drama, and social studies together, all on one day. The other day would be their other courses, math, PE, and so on and so forth. And from there, they're able to do their leader activities. So they're fixed in their particular schedule. The other piece that I can give you about leaders at this point, you know what? There's more information to come. Okay, so off to you, Kelly, or whoever's doing the next one. I'll take over the LSP as well. We have up to.
Sorry, I had my mic off.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'll tell you a little bit about our learning support program. We're really proud of it. It's a district program, and students would qualify for that program. They're usually referred from their grade 7 teacher, and then the grade 7 teacher and the resource teacher will send them to the school board, and the school board will do an assessment. And we like I said, we're very proud and very happy to have our program. So it's smaller class, a little bit smaller pace, and they get extra assistance. We're think that integration, we believe that integration and equity is a huge part of the school here. So we make sure that our LSP students mix with all of the students here at Magee. So they get a mixture of LSP classes where there's extra support, and they'll also have classes with every other student at Magee. A little bit different this year, obviously, because we've got such tight learning cohorts. And SPARTs, some of you might be here for SPARTs. You want to hear a little bit about the main school before we go to the SPARTs presentation. I'll be doing that at 7 o'clock. I think if you're here, then you also got the link to the SPARTs presentation at 7. But basically, in a nutshell, our SPARTs are here half-time. And what we end up doing is we give credits for some of the outside work that they're doing either in fine arts or athletics. And this way, we're able to accommodate our elite athletes and artists. So they would be here. Most of them come for half days in the morning, and then they go off in the afternoon to do their activity, although sometimes it's flipped as well. They generally do their 4 academics here, and they'll take 1 more course for socials. And next year, they'll be doing something called SPARTs for PE for SPART students. So that'll be new for next year. So they end up doing one through Vancouver Learning Network, and the one PE class, and their consumer ed. Sorry, yeah, there'll be consumer ed 8, and then again later in grade 9. But the more information to come at 7 p.m. I'm going to pass it back off to Brenda.
Okay, so the next slide is the ELL information piece. So our ELL students, whether they are brand new or they're much more experienced, our program has 3 levels. So if they're brand new, they would go into level 1, and then to intermediate, then to transitional. They would do 4 ELL courses, but then they will be integrated right away into math, PE, fine arts, and applied skills. So they're immersed right away in those fields, but they have much more intense learning opportunities with respect to writing and reading, social studies, and science in terms of vocabulary and so forth. And so we've got a good solid program in that fashion. The next item is the Skills Development Center. We have 2 teachers that are working there, Mr. Gordon Thrift and Mr. Jamie Scott. And so Skills Development Center, these are for students that have an IEP, so individual education plan, and they need support in their particular area. So then we are working with them in a very low ratio between teacher-student. And we also have really capable grade 12 peer tutors that also help out as well. And students are referred to this course by their grade 7 teacher in the spring, and that this would become one of the 8 courses that a student would take. I think that was it for skills. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier on, we can't speak to all of the amazing work that's done in the different departments, and also amazing what's going on with teachers having to condense a year-long course into 10 weeks. The teachers are doing a phenomenal job at this school. And what Kelly, Brenda, and I have to do at some staff meetings is say, guys, don't burn out. You're doing too much. You're doing a fantastic job, and we appreciate. But we really want our teachers to survive this whole experience too, and enjoy it as much as the kids are. So, but I do want to speak a little bit to the Applied Skills Design and Technologies, the ADST department, because this is one kind of an exemplar of how the school is doing what I think is a phenomenal job. So one of the parts, the ADST department, it hosts the business education courses. And so this is just it takes as a screenshot from our course selection catalog, and it shows the kind of ladder that occurs, where a student comes in at grade 8, and then the increasing number of courses that are foundational and then become elective that students can choose, moving towards marketing, accounting, tourism, and economics at the senior levels, from the initial grade 8 rotation and sampler courses, all the way through to the grade 11, 12 electives on the very right-hand side of the page. Next slide, Kelly. The grade 8 rotation includes, as Brenda mentioned, 3 months of entrepreneurship and marketing, 3 months of home economics, and 3 months of tech ed with Andy Robinson, one of our young teachers that we have. In that home economics, we include textiles, we include fashion, and we include culinary arts. And then within the tech ed program, we have the introduction to jewelry and design and woodshop. But then coming after that base, we also have this opportunity of the information technology kind of package under Thomas Newt, who Kelly mentioned earlier on, young teacher that in his spare time, if he has any, also looks after our clubs. So Thomas's courses include graphics and graphic design, computer programming, digital media design, and those also include the AP programming courses at the grade 12 level. which, as I mentioned, is an AP level course, and so that generally gives you, many of the universities and colleges, your first year. Moving on to the technology education that Mr. Robinson oversees, he really has two areas of speciality: woodwork, metalwork, and jewelry design, and drafting and architecture courses, where students learn online drafting, CAD drafting, and some of the state-of-the-art programs that set up a foundation in that, in those careers. Mr. Robinson's courses include, at the grade 11, 12 level, engineering and design and fabrication courses. So some very hands-on and skilled and technical skills. And Andy and his team is also very working closely together with the math and science departments, for an in-school STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and maths program. So our colleagues, in our department head for science, Mr. Colin Mayer, and Mr. Robinson, together with other science department teachers, have been developing a engineering type of program that synthesizes aspects of science, and math and the technical skills of manufacturing. So if you take a look over on our webpage in a couple of months or a couple of weeks, you'll be seeing a few more photographs and maybe a couple of video clips and an interview with some students who are involved in that. Of course, I was just in Andy's class this morning, and I was just amazed at the work that they've done in this very, very short time span, making and constructing some hydroponic growing and vegetable growing operations that we're going to be having around the school, which will then be drawn on in our foods programs, for the students who will be making, using the lettuce and stuff like that. That's going to be grown in the hydroponic program that is part of engineering. So it's innovative, it's exciting, it's pretty cutting edge, and we're very proud of that. Equally proud of that is, as Kelly has mentioned, is some of our sport, and that brings us to physical education, Kelly.
Okay, that is actually one of my teachable subjects. So you will see me in the gym quite often. And between that and coaching the rugby team, it's a great way for me to get out of the office and actually see our students. I can't tell you how much I enjoy being actually in the gym with our kids. Last year I had the grade 8s and had a great time the entire year, and I'll have grade 8s again this year. Not sure for next year, but hopefully I'll get to see your children. Um, Overall, physical and health education at Magee, it's probably not the PE that you remember. Very inclusive. We get everybody involved. There is a large aspect of mental health that gets tied into the overall wellness. So the classes are not, it's not like a hyper competitive thing. We try to foster some sports that, not even necessarily sports, but also activities that students will do for their entire lifetime. So it's not like the olden times where, you'd line the smallest grade 8 up against the biggest grade 12 in the school and do tackling practice, something like that. On the contrary, it's a lot of the games are quite cooperative. So there are some things that the PHE department values, of course, being on time, energy, work ethic, passion, being prepared, being coachable. All of those things are what we expect the students to bring when they come, because we know that not all students are super comfortable doing things that are athletic or active, and we know that when they come in. So we really want to foster. The gym it's a safe place, and it's a place that they're going to come and enjoy, get their heart rate up. This year it's a little bit different. That, of course, the philosophy of lifelong fitness, it kind of takes a back seat when we've gone to a semestered system, and we're going to make sure that we get all of their activity into one quarter. Normally, of course, it would go over the entire year. And I'm going to hand it back to Brenda, and she can just touch on a little bit of leaders information for us.
Sounds good. We can go to the next slide that has some information pieces. So once again, I'll have the information session at 7 p.m. after this session. Just key things to note that the application forms are due Friday, January 8th by 3 p.m. into our school office. The application form is already on our school website. I'll also post it onto our chat group, shortly. Please note, though, that it's a school-based program, so it's not something you would cross boundary for in terms of the program. But if you happen to be successful crossing the boundary, then you could be considered for the program as well. And once we get the application forms in, we'll go through an interview process. And from the interview process, first round of applicants will be accepted, and so on and so forth. So once again, more details, any questions that you may have, please bring them with you to our 7 o'clock meeting. Thanks, Kelly.
All right, and I'm not going to explain too much about SPARTs because we've got a separate meeting for that. But you've heard the name of the program. I'll just tell you a little bit more about what it's about, and if you're interested in it, we'll continue at 7 o'clock. So SPARTs allows high performance athletes and artists time where they can train. We've had some very high level athletes come through. I've had a student on a 17-year-old on the senior women's Canadian field hockey team. We've had pro tennis players come through. Really, it's meant for students who are passionate and elite about their sport or art. It's not something that we kind of do halfway, and that's why they get a modified schedule where they're only here half time. There's a lot of concessions to joining SPARTs. They don't always have their friends from their elementary school. They're only here part of the time, so they don't quite get as connected as our regular students. But we do have students from across the Lower Mainland. There are students from, we've had this year Prince George, as far away as Guatemala. So we do get quite a few internationals. It's quite a popular program. And if you'd like to learn more about it, we'll see you at 7 p.m. Application for SPARTs is Friday, December 18th at 3 p.m. And I'll go over that in the following meeting. Okay, just a few dates to mark down in the calendar, and of course we have this recorded and we'll post it. Our VSB in-boundary registration, so those are grade 7 students. So that would be our feeder schools, mostly McKechnie, Maple Grove, Osler. We get a few from Osler every year because they're kind of on that funny boundary. That is November 2nd. It starts. It wraps up on January 29th. So if you plan to come to our amazing school, we need to know fairly early because that's how we get our staffing done. We can take in late applications, but there's no guarantees. If you're an in-catchment student and you indicate that you're coming to us, then you're guaranteed a spot and you're guaranteed a timetable. If somebody tries to get in, sometimes this time of year or even May, June, we can't always guarantee that we're going to get a full timetable. SPARTS application deadline, of course, is Friday, December 18th. Leaders, Friday, January 8th. And interviews, we're still working on what that would look like. It would probably be something over Teams or virtual. That's going to be January 20th in the afternoon. Cross-boundary applications, we don't get a ton of them. I'll be honest. I believe last year, Andrew, we had 20 last year, didn't we?
Yeah, 2028, somewhere there. But
yeah.
It depends on what the district will finally give us. In the old days, we used to be able to take 200. And now the district has really closed off on that. And I think it's for good reasons, for us to help understanding and manage enrollment, to better plan for seismic upgrading. So I think it's important, and it helps to make sure all of the public education schools in the public education system, I think, are fantastic. I think Magee is certainly better than any, but that's because we're here as an admin team. So it goes without saying.
Absolutely. Offers for cross-boundary applications are Wednesday, March 31st. So sometimes that can get into mini schools, and I know some people will be applying for minis and they're weighing their options out. But if you are one of the last 2 years, it's been 20. We don't know what it's going to be. Would be the date that we need to. That's the date that we will final date that we'll give you an offer to come to Magee. The grade 7 student school tour. Tentatively, we have it for April 22nd, where you know, the kids get to come, they check out. We do have an amazing building. It really is. I have to say, for Lower Mainland schools, I think it's my favorite layout because it's so compact, easy to get around. It's gorgeous. If we're still in the state of the world that we're in, we'll figure something out, most likely virtually, and we'll probably get some of our grade 12s or even grade 11s who will be peer counselors for next year to do a tour. And again, you have the links for SPARTs and Leaders. Those were emailed out. And what we'll do now is I believe Brenda is going to, she's going to, I can't do it myself because I've just got a full screen of PowerPoint right now. If you didn't receive a meeting link yet, you should have in the email, but we'll post those up in the chat as well. And to join the meeting, what you're going to do is you can leave this meeting and you just click on the link and it will take you, it'll be the same process that you had before. You're just going to want to leave this meeting before you join the other one. You can have them both open, but it's kind of funny. What we're going to do right now is we are going to just have a little bit of a Q&A. So what I'm going to do is maybe I'll actually get to see some people. I am going to join us.